and gentlemen.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good morning, Bakersfield and surrounding communities and everybody watching online. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Sparky, good morning, my friend.
Wild Thing.
Wild Thing Wednesday. Let them know what they got going today.
Oh, we're going to jump right into those playing games that started last night in the NBA. We will talk to the owners of Harris Barbecue in the second hour. We'll also we'll recap baseball, recap Jackie Robinson Day, and we'll have our Wild Thing Wednesday to wrap up the first hour, and then we'll get into some NFL in the second hour. Of course, I've got some Dolphin talk. Whenever they get in the media, I will bring up the Dolphin talk for all 6 of our fans here in California. And then we'll wrap up the show with some miscellaneous news around. And plus, we have another pair of tickets to the Mac and Cheese Fest, the 10th annual, this Saturday at the Kern County Fairgrounds. You're going to want to go to that, I promise.
Absolutely. The 10th annual, it's going to be one of the best that we've ever had, as I said yesterday. And I have a challenge for you guys today. In order to win these tickets, you have to bring a crazier or wilder story to our attention than Sparky will bring to your attention at the 7:45. So if you have a story or a wild story that you want to share, you're going to have to either call in or text it in to 661-842-2000. We will read it. And if we determine that this is a wilder story than what Sparky has prepared for you today, you win a pair of tickets to the Mac and Cheese Fest this
and I promise,
Saturday.
The bar is very low. I will tell you that. So if you want to start sending in those stories, those wild things, sports stories, it doesn't have to be sports. It could be entertainment. It could be anything. It could be a wild story that's going on in your home.
As long as we can verify that it's true.
Just text it in 661-842-2000. Did you watch any basketball yesterday?
I watched nothing but basketball yesterday.
That is a beautiful thing.
I had to switch between that and NXT, which there wasn't a whole ton going on in NXT, so thank goodness. But at this point right now, the NBA play-in has begun. Day 1 was last night. We'll start in the East because the Orlando Magic and the Hawks were the first game of the night. And as I predicted, the Orlando Magic's defense came to play as they absolutely locked down the Hawks last night, winning 120-95. Was nowhere close.
It was awesome because I came in yesterday afternoon and got to run into Snacks, who we talked to yesterday, and he had his feet up, was watching the game, so I got to check in and see the score. And at that time, they were up by 15, 16 points.
Yep, they led as much as 29 points throughout the entire game. Defense kills in these winner-go-home games, which is why I had a really strong feeling that the Orlando Magic were going to be able to pull this off because they have been a defensively stout team for the last couple of years. Cole Anthony went out and made his daddy proud as Greg Anthony watched on the sideline. Cole scored 26 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. 26 points and 6 assists. I was reading some of Paolo's stats at the same time. He went 10 of 17 on 4 for 9 from the three-point line, all 20 minutes off the bench. That's impressive to score 26 points in 20 minutes and to just absolutely command the game as he did amongst others on this team. Paolo, as well, as I said some of his stats already, 17 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 of those assists coming in the first quarter. He struggled to shoot from the field, came 4 of 13 from the field altogether. And then Franz Wagner, the big man, helped out a little bit with 13 points and 13 rebounds as well. The team looked solid, and I think that they're going to put up a pretty dang good fight against Boston coming up as they did lock up the number 7 seed with this win, and will be headed to Boston to take on the Celtics in the first series against the two teams since 2010, back in the Big Three era of Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce taking on Dwight Howard, where the Celtics won that series 4-2 to move on to their championship run that year. And I want to go to a quick soundbite you got here already, my friend. Anthony Black, one of the better bench players for the Magic, had this to say about prepping for Boston for the next series.
I don't know, just putting together a game plan, using our speed, our size, our athleticism. Obviously, they're defending champs, so we're going to have to lock in. But obviously, like you said, we've won a couple of games this year against them, and just got to key in on the good that we did in those games and try to advance them to the playoffs.
It's interesting to me that the East has a lot of these teams that are stacked with young talent, the Magic being one of them. Anthony Black, I believe, is a second-year player off the bench who scored 16. I mean, this team has up and down the board, and they're missing their best defender, in my opinion, in Jalen Suggs, who is probably one of the better guard defenders in the league. I don't know if he'll be playing or coming back at all in this series or in this upcoming series. They would benefit from him coming back, but now it's going to come down to, can you slow down Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and the rest of this Celtics team? So
I don't see it.
I don't know. I think they'll put up a fight. I don't think they'll beat
yeah.
the Boston Celtics, though.
But flipping over to the Atlanta Hawks, as Trae Young threw a hard pass, man, if you watch that replay, man, it looked like he was throwing a temper tantrum, but doing it against a referee. And then the NBA came out and said he was making a mockery of the game. So Young's frustration with how the Hawks playing game against the Magic was.
I'm sorry. Now, before we hit this soundbite, is it kind of bad to you, or does it sound bad to you that the NBA is calling out Trae Young for making a mockery of the game, but we're allowing Ja Morant to run around and play GTA on the court? Like, I love Ja, and like we said the other day, we don't care about Ja Morant putting up a gun or a grenade. I really couldn't care less. But really, you're gonna say somebody's making a mockery of basketball this way? That's ridiculous.
Well, it reminded me of the NCAA championship game when the Florida center slammed the ball down.
Right.
And I had to learn the rules
that if you
don't catch it,
it's a technical.
So in the NBA, it's a flip where if you throw the ball too hard at the ref or bounce it too hard to them, that's a technical.
And come on, man, this is the playoffs. You're going to have emotions during the playoffs, especially someone like Trae Young, who's still on the younger side, but he's maturing himself. You got to let that go.
Yeah, and especially if you want that passion in a game.
Right.
That's what you want. I mean,
he's losing by 30. Let the guy be angry. God.
This was Trae after the game talking about the ejection.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's one game. I'm not letting it dwindle. I'm not letting people think about what I'm feeling and things like that. Obviously, I told them I was sticking up for the squad, and I'm not gonna let the refs frustrate me like that in our next game. I know we got a winner go home next, so I'm gonna be ready. And I told the team I'm gonna be ready for them. And we got to go home and take care of business.
Trae Young ended the game with 28 points, 6 assists on 40 minutes, even though he was ejected. I feel bad for him, though. Like, really, like, again, it's the passion of the playoffs. Let it go.
I get it. And there's a line, and I don't think throwing the ball like he did was really crossing that line.
No.
But he's setting up, as you know, the Miami Heat will be in Chicago today. Tip-off is at 4 p.m., and you can catch that game right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m. and 101.1 FM. Hopefully my Bulls come to play, because I'm sick and tired of watching the Bulls and Heat. But whoever wins that game will end up matching up with Atlanta after this. So
and potentially has a chance to beat Atlanta, in my opinion, because if they play the way they played last night, I think they're very beatable.
Yeah, and especially, do you think that in the playoffs, that, like Trae had said, it's one game, he'll bounce it off, and plus, you know, he's the lead, one of the leaders of that team. But do you see?
Oh, he's the lone leader now that they departed from Murray. So.
But do you see a team that looked deflated last night go into a game, whether it's Chicago or Miami, if that is as easy as he sounds, that you could just drop that, and you know, because they, like you said, they were down 29 at one point. I mean, that's pretty deflating.
That's a deflating loss. It really is. But I think in this situation with Trae Young, who's been in this situation in his career multiple times now, I think that he's learned from it. And I do believe he has the short-term memory to actually turn it around for himself. The question is whether his team will turn it around. Because if you really look at his cat, Okongwu was probably the only other guy that you can rely on. He only points last night. George Niang off of the bench had 15 points. They got out-rebounded by 12. I mean, and just defensively, they got locked down. They couldn't stop the Magic, and the Magic stopped them on dang near any time they needed to. They only shot 19% for 3-point, and that's not going to win you games in the NBA anymore. No. So short-term memory for Trae Young, 100%. Short-term memory for the supporting cast around him.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and I don't think that's why I believe that if either one of these teams, either the Heat or the Bulls, I believe it will be the Bulls to win tonight. But whether either of these teams move on and head to Atlanta to take on the Hawks, you have a pretty dang good chance at beating them if you can somehow do what the Magic did today and pretty much just let Trae do Trae, but lock everybody else out.
Pretty much. I mean, that's the game plan for either team, whoever comes in and plays Atlanta. But we'll wrap up this segment. We'll come back and we'll talk about the Warriors and who they'll be playing in the next round right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. And welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. We ran down the eastern side of the play-in last night. Spark, let's go to the west, as this was the much more entertaining game, in my opinion, although it started to look like it was going to be another blowout towards the beginning of this game. The Warriors taking on the Memphis Grizzlies at home, where playoff Jimmy was in full effect.
It's a real thing.
It is 100% a real thing. Playoff Steph is also a real thing. Both of them ending the game with 30-plus points. And Jimmy just commanded the ball and really ran away with it throughout this entire game. I was lucky to watch this entire thing from tip to finish. It started right as I left here last night. And I got to tell you, man, this might be exactly what we thought it was going to be. Playoff Jimmy and Steph might be the best playoff tandem I've ever seen. Like
we're about to see, because when they play Houston, that's going to be a good series.
And I think that Houston might be in trouble. We'll get to that in a second. But The Warriors ended up pulling out the win last night narrowly, very narrowly, after leading the Grizzlies by 20 at one point. The Grizzlies made an incredible comeback towards the end of the second quarter with a 10-something run, and then going into halftime, we're down 10 on the other side, did it again, cutting it very close. The Warriors really only let them take the lead for a brief moment by 2 before actually overcoming it and pulling some stuff out. Steph with 2 late threes. Although, I don't know how much you got to watch of this game, Spark, but that injury that Steph is dealing with to his thumb might be more serious than we think. Watching this game, I don't know about you, but there were plenty of shots where I looked at it and said, ooh, that's not vintage Steph Curry.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a funky shot already. So with the thumb, it kind of looked like he was trying to adapt to it. I think, I mean, he finished the game strong, and I know they won 121 to 116, so pulling out a 5-point win. But when you have Butler on top of, Draymond when he comes in and does what he can, but looking at Butler and Curry heating up at the right time, it's going to be tough. And this is a clip from Steph talking about playing with Butler in the playoffs.
I never doubted it. It was coming. It's just he always has a sense of pride on like playing the right way and, whatever the game calls for. And I think he kind of understood that he's been here before. He understands the nerves and the adrenaline and the expectations, and none of that rattles him. It's just he plays basketball at a high level, so that's what's coming out. I don't think it's it's predetermined that he's being aggressive, but it's just because of the moment. And so we definitely needed every one of them. And you could tell he's a dog and a winner and loves these type of environments, and it brings the best out of him.
There are a few things that I really appreciated from this game. The first thing was the referees, because at least the beginning of this game, the refs let everything go. They were letting them play hard. They were letting them play physical. There were no fouls called, I think, until about 9 minutes left in the first quarter, where there was one that Edey had just wrapped up Butler, and you had to call it. Like there was no way you could let that go. But the other thing that I really appreciated out of this is that you got a very good back and forth between these two teams at one point that seemed very much like the Grizzlies were at least coming back to what we saw in the beginning of this season, where they were the number 2 seed. Ja Morant rolled his ankle in the third quarter, which looked like he might be out for the rest of the game. He ended up coming back and playing on it. I doubt it's going to keep him out of this next game against whomever comes out of the game tonight. But when you really watched what you saw from Jimmy and from Steph, especially after guys like Draymond Green ended up fouling out at the end of this game, it's hard to say that there's anybody that can keep up with that. 38 points from Jimmy, 37 from Steph. Steph was 13 for 13 from the free throw line. I mean,
I was nervous on what Warriors team we were going to see.
Right.
Because I know they ended the season pretty rough.
And Steph came into this as well 0-2, I think, in playing games, or 0-3, something like that.
0-3. So this is the first time in 4
that they've actually been able to win a play-in game.
Yeah, that's why he was going off at the end of the game. He was pumped because they've been 0-3 in playing games, and they found a way to pull out this win. And going back to Butler, this is what he said on playing with Steph Curry.
It feels great. I want everybody to be happy. For sure, Steph, he deserves it. What he's done for held the game of basketball, not only this city and this organization. He's in it for the long haul. He wants to win. He wants to win every single game, every single possession. And I know I want to win a championship, so he needs his this would be number 5 for him, so he needs one more.
I mean, it would be great to see Jimmy win a ring. I would love to see Jimmy win a ring. And honestly, I don't think that they're going to have much trouble wrapping up this series against the Rockets. As good as the Rockets are, and Ime Udoka is a fantastic coach, but we've said this all for the last 3 weeks, or at least I have. Experience is what gets you through the playoffs. Experience is the long haul, what you need to win a championship, in which the Rockets have 0 of. 0. Like, as great as they are as a young team, they'll make a splash. They'll make some runs here or there and might win 1 or 2 games against these Warriors. But let's not forget that this is the number 1 defensive rated team in the NBA since they got Jimmy Butler. Number 1.
I believe. I mean, I agree 100% with that one. But I also think who gets hot at the right time,
Absolutely. And
just like any sport.
I
And I
think that
think
they're
they're
one of
getting
them.
hot. Exactly.
I think they're one of them. I think the Clippers now coming into this next series with an 8-game winning streak is a great sign as well. I
Well,
mean,
that's what I was looking for when I watched the game. Is okay, which Warriors team are we going to see? Because looking at 0-3 in past play-ins, I know they lost to what I think it was Sacramento last year,
mhm,
but seeing Butler come out hot, and
mhm.
then I believe it was 7 or 8 minutes of the game where Curry just turned it on.
Well, especially after losing, I think, the last game to the Clippers of the season, which was or the last game of the regular season. I apologize. A lot of people were thinking, well, this is a bad sign for the Warriors. We're going to get a bad Warriors team going into the playoffs. I think this just proves that there is another gear that these guys can hit in the playoffs.
I look at the
Oop,
I'm bad.
all good. There is
This is
another.
the first time I produced a show. I didn't know if you knew that, but it
Oh,
sets up Golden State and Houston.
yes.
And then going back to Memphis, which I believe they will play the winner of.
They'll be playing the winner of Sacramento and Dallas, which goes on tonight in Sacramento. Well, I'm sorry. The next game they will play will be in Memphis, which is going to be a good thing for them
Yes.
because this young team needs to play a game at home. And they really shine. I mean, Desmond Bane had 30 points. Ja ended up with 22. Jackson Jr., who is silently having a career year, 18 points in his own right. One of the better defensive guys. Shoot, Zach Edey, the big center from Purdue, for all you Purdue fans out there. He's doing a fantastic job as well, blending into this team. But I think they need a win at home in order to keep their momentum going. And I genuinely, after what I watched last night, there's a good chance you might see it.
I was going to bring up because when we talked to Snacks yesterday, he was all in about Sacramento, which I think they get by Dallas. I think it'll be a lot closer than it's going to look like right now.
I think so too.
But with Memphis looking like they did last night, I mean, that Sacramento Memphis game,
it's going to be a
good one.
Great game. And again, I want to see, much like what we wondered about the Warriors last night, I'm wondering about the Kings tonight. What Kings team are we going to get? Are we going to get the team where Levine and DeRozan go off for 30 apiece and you guys run away with it? Sabonis plays his game and you guys probably win by 20 to 30? Or are we going to see the team that's been streaky and can barely keep up with certain playoff teams? That's what we're worried about if you're a Sacramento fan. But since we're talking about Dallas, I got to bring this up. Nico had his first press conference yesterday for the Dallas Mavericks since this whole Lakers situation essentially blew up in his face again with the entire crowd chanting "Fire Nico." And what I thought was funny is that there was no recording devices allowed in this media room. For those of you who are wondering, that is the Dallas Mavericks fan base the night that Luka Doncic came back and played against them as a Laker.
It's so disrespectful.
It is super disrespectful. But what I thought was more disrespectful was what Nico said to justify himself yesterday. And I have to say this. For him to go and, again, tell everybody you're not allowed to record this meeting, I'm just having a press conference to tell you guys what I feel. One sounds like a pretentious high schooler. It says, I'm just going to tell you guys how I feel, but you can't tell anybody how I said this. And two, he justified it by saying defense wins championships, and we did this to go after a guy in Anthony Davis that we had our eye on for a long time, amongst other pieces. Sparky, remind me, was it the Mavericks defense that got them to the finals last year?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to say no. No, it was not their defense that got them to the finals last year. Not at all. It was
that's what's going to get them. But I was going to flip that question because not only did they not let them record, but it goes by everything that went under the radar was how much love they tried to give to Luka in that game and how disrespectful it is to a player like Anthony Davis that is, who you traded for.
Well, again, but the fan base didn't want him.
Yeah.
This isn't a situation where they were like, oh my God, awesome, we got Anthony Davis. No, they didn't want Anthony. Nobody wanted this trade except for Nico. That's why I agree with the fan base. Fire this guy. Are you dumb? Like, what got you to the finals last year was not defensive
Does that keep his job safe though?
Heck
at least?
no.
Because why does he still have a job?
That's the major question. But I genuinely believe it's the ownership situation going on down there in Dallas. I think that they have a very, very big want to move the team out of Dallas anyway. So they're not really focused on how they can keep the fan base happy.
Do you think we have this same conversation if Dallas loses tonight?
What, that if Nico's job is safe and all that type of stuff?
I mean,
are
we going to be bringing up him losing his job here in 24 hours?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And I'm going to tell you right now, when Anthony Davis does nothing in this game tonight, nothing, most likely scores maybe 15 points and 11 rebounds.
I mean, he's had good games.
He's had solid games. But here's the thing.
Game winner and a couple.
You need Luka to make a run. You don't need Anthony. You
Davis
never
is not
need
going to lead
Anthony.
a team.
And honestly, you need Kyrie to make this team work at all, and you don't even have him. He tore his ACL, and he won't be back. So, no, I do think that we'll be talking about this in 24 hours because I do think he should be fired. I think the Luka trade alone warrants you being fired. I think that alone warrants you knowing nothing about ball. Nothing. Mr. Defense wins championships. Shut up, you pretentious high schooler. Like, that was so dumb, dude. The fact
which was funnier, I listened to Unsportsmanlike on the way in, which is a ESPN program that leads up to the early bird special, but they had shown pictures on their Instagram how Nico was hiding in the hallway in the tunnel during that game with the Lakers.
Right.
And now, he didn't do a post-game interview after that game. Nope. And now he's doing his first press conference and not letting anyone record, or we be playing those clips right now.
I know. And that's why. That is exactly why he didn't want anybody recording, because he knew he would have it all over the news. ESPN would be ripping into him just like I am right now because you're an idiot. Idiot. I'm not going to, I'm sorry. I actually, no, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry for saying this because he is an idiot. I could put any high school kid in his chair right now, and they would have made a better move at that time than Nico did.
Yeah, it was a silly trade. It reminded me of silly trades I would get playing Madden.
And honestly, I have a whole list of situations that we'll probably get into on a different day of other trades and other GM moves that are equally as stupid, including the New York Giants GM going on a Hard Knocks and saying that we're not going to pay a running back a certain amount of money because he's not worth it, even though that running back is the best running back in the NFL.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
Exactly. And then your owner came in and said, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight if he goes to Philadelphia. And guess where he went? This is what I'm talking about. There are people, much like we said yesterday with the NCAA, there are people in positions in sports right now, including general manager positions, that should not be there.
Yes.
You don't know what you're doing. I'm honestly this close for you guys looking on YouTube to believing Terry Fortnoy of the Atlanta Falcons is in that position.
I'm in the same boat with Chris Greer, which we'll get into later in the show, because he's been there way too long, and you guys have seen as NFL fans how much of a dumpster fire and roller coaster the Miami Dolphins as an organization has been. But let's get into some positive news. Well, Let's take this break. We'll come back. We'll recap Jackie Robinson Day, plus much, much more. Text in anytime. Text or call in 661-842-2000. Remember, we've got some Wild Thing stories coming up at 7:45. If you have a Wild Thing story, call or text it in 661-842-2000.
And you might just win some tickets to Mac and Cheese Fest.
To Mac and Cheese. You can actually see us. Both of us will be out at Mac and Cheese this Saturday at the fairgrounds.
Come get a beer.
Yes, I'll be pouring.
I'm sure I'll be pouring at some point during the event.
Burdick will be running around like Sonic.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually where they got me at first. And then I get to go have the fun stuff, join my brethren at the ESPN radio.
Yes, sir. Early bird special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. guys. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Yesterday was Jackie Robinson Day, and we are a terrible sports show because we didn't mention it once. I apologize for that. We had way too much NBA and NFL and other stuff to catch up on, and we've also kind of figured it might be a better idea to just talk about it after the games are over. It was a fantastic slate of baseball yesterday. If you were a fan, I got to catch a handful of it, not a whole ton because basketball was going on, but I'll run down a couple of the games for you, which eventually ended, of course, you Dodger fans out there, with a win from the Dodgers 6-2 over the Rockies. However, some other games that happened last night, the Diamondbacks took out the Marlins 10-4, the Reds beating the Mariners 8-4. Let's see, the Phillies beating the Giants 6-4, and amongst others, the Yankees won as well. The Blue Jays are winning and turning heads as well. Let's start with that one, actually, Sparky, because the Blue Jays are still being talked about because of this Vladdy deal. This deal might actually change baseball a little bit because, as we've seen the Dodgers do, a lot of teams are really up in arms about this entire move to defer money down the line to other, years upon years of their franchise's history. And much like the Bobby Bonilla deal, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I believe the Shohei Ohtani deal will obviously end up being one that will work in the long run for the Dodgers. But this entire move with Vladdy Guerrero Jr., his $500 million deal over 14 years, in which $325 million is a signing bonus. Now, there's a reason for this for some of you who are wondering. The signing bonus is actually something that is not contingent. So regardless of, say, the MLB goes into a lockout, he gets paid this money regardless, which is a good sign for baseball because these players are guaranteed money. They really are. These players are the ones that are going to be bringing in the actual revenue for your team. So when you have a guy like Vladdy Guerrero Jr., you can't really have him be, I don't know, unhappy. So I get giving him a $325 million contract signing bonus. Now, obviously, that means that the team will only have to defer about $175 million over that 14 years that he's going to be on the contract, which is also going to help you in terms of your cap salary because obviously the signing bonus is going to be taken care of and is deferred to the state that you live in. One of the major problems that they're running into this is the fact that Canada as a country is actually looking into this move, as they do with a lot of NHL moves as well, because, well, this pure amount of money that they're gaining is obviously, much like our IRS, something that they want to look into. But Sparky, I'm going to throw this at you because I thought this was pretty funny. Did you know that the Canadians, or the country of Canada, or their revenue agency,
Canadians, yeah, go ahead.
have, well, yes, they are Canadians. And no, for you South Park fans, their jaw does not unhinge and move around. But I thought this was funny. They've denied certain NHL contracts because it is quote unquote slavery to a point.
Do what?
Yeah. They've used slavery as a reason to deny certain contracts in the NHL. I doubt that's going to happen here with Vladdy Guerrero, but this entire contract is just causing a lot of stir, which I thought was interesting because it's going to further question your team, whomever you are a fan of, whether you're a Dodger fan or a Giant fan or a Cubs fan. I'm going to use the Cubs because the Cubs are my next example. If you're a Cubs fan, you're wondering how in the heck are you going to hold on to your star player, Kyle Tucker, who you traded for from the Astros last year, and he's coming up on his final season with the Cubs under contract. Now everybody is just going to say, why don't you just do the Vladdy Guerrero? Why don't you give him a $500 million deal, but then $400 million is a signing bonus? But I bring this question up to you, Sparky. Act as a GM for me for a second.
I can.
So
I broke one, but I can.
I mean, at this point, we're all broke, so it's okay. It's baseball. There is no cap salary. You just got to give what's in your pocket, okay? But if you're a GM, and obviously signing bonuses happen all the time when you sign the contract, but when are you supposed to give that signing bonus?
You're supposed to do it at a certain date of the season, right?
Exactly, by a certain day each year. And it's not contingent, which means you're getting paid that money no matter what, if there's a lockout or not. My point being, if you're a GM and you're sitting here thinking, I got to pay my star player in baseball, now let's stick it at $500 million, even though that's lowballing it if you're really being honest about it right now.
These days, yeah.
Is it a smart move to really put this much money into a signing bonus that you have to pay the player? Whereas the contingent would be, or I'm sorry, the contingent would be you have to pay the player. The opposite would be you put it in the yearly part as you would normally do. And then if the player doesn't work out, you might not have to pay that money
It's not
later on down the
guaranteed.
line. So if you're a GM, which one are you thinking, especially as a baseball GM, is actually more viable for your team?
I mean, obviously, it would be the usual, the normal before this season is to, put it in the back and, a yearly salary. But now, baseball has learned, okay, well, we can just pay this guy an insane amount of money and then just, put it all in the back end. And, that's what's screwing up, I think, in my opinion, is what's screwing up the whole format with baseball. The NFL has kind of turned that around where when a team, which I'll throw out the Dolphins, in a team that, is reaching for straws right now because they've overpaid players like Tua, Tyreek, Ramsey, Waddle just got paid, a bunch of them, but they found loopholes where, they can just erase part of those contracts and just pay them as bonuses, and it doesn't come off the salary cap.
Right.
It actually clears space so they can sign other players.
Right. And tax-wise, like I just said, it goes to the state in which they live. So in Vladdy Guerrero's case, it's not going to be funneled through Canada. It's going to be funneled through Florida.
And I had another Dodger fan text in and say, quit complaining about the salary cap. Other owners, they're all billionaires, and they can do the same thing the Dodgers are doing.
Nobody here is complaining about the salary cap. Not a single. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that this move from Vladdy Guerrero opens up a secondary door to what your Dodgers have created. Essentially, this is the swinging on the other side of the pendulum. This is a huge win for the players because a lot of these teams who don't have a lot of money are going to use this formula of the Vladdy Guerrero contract to keep star players where they are, which means you're going to get these star players getting a lot more money right off the bat. Now, what's going to be different about this is, like we just said, is in the term of Vladdy Guerrero style contract, you have to pay the player right away. So it's not something that you can defer down the line, obviously, as the Dodgers have done with Shohei. Shohei's situation is you Dodger fans are going to be, buying Dodger dogs for $30 a piece here in about 5 years.
I had a buddy who went to the game on Sunday. Said it was about $85. He got a collector's cup and some nachos.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what you're in for, because for the next 15, 20 years, if this continues on the Shohei side of it, you're going to have deferred money all the way down the line. And then your teams aren't going to have money to pay other players. And granted, yes, these guys have the money to pay. No one's saying they don't. But we are saying there's got to be some sort of leeway here. You got to have some midway and get it back to what worked, which is kind of a little bit of a medium of both of these. You can defer a certain amount of the money, maybe down to 5 years, but 10 to 20, that's kind of ridiculous. Let's be honest. And then one real quick story too, before we get out of here and go to break one more time. Outside of my Phillies outfield looking ugly, which if we get to that, we get to that. The Dodgers, you have something proud to say because your Dodger Stadium is going to be in the 2028 Olympics. It has been announced by the Olympic Committee, amongst other sports. I think they announced the locations for all of these sports that are going to be taking place in the Olympics of 2028. But the Dodger Stadium is going to be the main source for baseball in the 2028 Olympics. So we're going to be seeing most of these amazing teams from all around the world take their turn up to bat at Dodger Stadium. And I think that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's right around the corner from us.
And we might actually see MLB players in the Olympics this year.
That's what I was going to ask you because it hasn't been cleared quite yet.
No, but Manfred has really hinted that because it's in LA this year, they can kind of just let it go. Maybe make like a special point in the season where they take like a month off so they can focus on this. You know what I mean?
I know they blocked them when they played in Tokyo.
And I know we've talked about the World Baseball Classic and obviously how Aaron Judge is the leader of that team. This is not going to be the same team, I would imagine. Again, this is going to be 4 years down the line. God only knows who's going to be on this team for the United States at that point. But it's a really cool thing to see because like you just said, traditionally, it's not something they would allow. because baseball season happens at the exact same time. So you're taking away from the MLB. But
yeah, it's set to open on July 14th, 2028.
Yep.
And the other announcements, the Olympic organizers have additionally confirmed more than 50 other venues, including others in downtown LA. Crypto.com Arena is home of the LA Kings and Lakers. Will host events including boxing, gymnastics, and some other ones that will be in Anaheim, like volleyball and a few other things.
I'm seeing here men's and women's basketball will be at the Inuit Dome. SoFi Stadium will be where you'll see most of the swimming pool stuff. It'll be a setup like the 2024 Olympic trials at Lucas Oil. It'll be kind of like that. And then the other things I'm seeing here, track and field obviously will be taking place at the Coliseum. Where better place to put this thing? Right there at the Coliseum. Come on, baby.
And
That's where this thing belongs.
I'll throw in before we take a break. I was looking over some the Jackie Robinson stuff yesterday, and a big fan of the Nike Cortezes. If you've ever worn them, you know that's like walking on soft pillows. The best shoes I've ever had. And they announced yesterday that they were releasing a very limited amount of Jackie Robinson Nike Cortezes.
Ooh.
And if you look at our Instagram, the Early Bird Special Official, I have the pictures on our story right now. They look pretty nice. They're white with the black swoosh, but they've got the back on the left, it's got the 4, and the right is got the 2, and then the bottom, it's got a part of the Jackie Robinson jerseys that he wore. And then we also had a text before we take a break. It says Nico Harris knows he effed up, and that press conference proves he knows that. No question, and hand-picked media on top of that.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, again, he wanted media there that he knew he could trust, that weren't going to skew the story in any way that was going to make him look bad. But regardless, you look bad. The entire move makes you look bad.
If you go back to that segment, we had another text that said, Burdick's on fire. Yeah, I think he hit that nerve.
Dude, I'm telling you, it bugs me. When I see GMs or people in authority spots that make stupid moves but don't want to admit it, it bugs me. Everybody messes up, man. We've had presidents come out and say we've messed up and I can fix this, and we've rallied around them. Just don't be somebody that just denies it all. That doesn't help anybody.
Well,
especially not your team.
You have another chance to win a pair of mac and cheese tickets. Just text in your Wild Thing Wednesday story. And right after this break, I'll share mine for the week right here, the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. That's right. It is Wild Thing Wednesday here on the Early Bird Special. If you have a wild story that you think can beat Sparky's story for the week, text it or call it in right now, 661-842-2000. We'll give you a shot and potentially hook you up with a pair of Mac and Cheese Fest tickets going on this Saturday, April 19th at the Kern County Fairgrounds. Sparky, hit him.
Well, my wild thing story this week is athletes in North Texas set a Guinness World Record for the longest pickleball marathon. Yes, pickleball.
Why is this a thing?
I have no idea, but a team of 4 pickleball players named the Pickle Breakers
I'm going to leave that alone.
set a new Guinness World Record for the longest marathon playing in a pickleball marathon, playing 36 consecutive hours of mixed doubles at Pickler Universe in Carrollton,
I was
Texas.
about to say there's a Pickler University. What?
Yes.
Like, no, okay, no, you stopped there for a second. Okay, what?
They broke the previous record of 34 hours, 5 minutes, and 55 seconds held by a team in Britain. But they played from 6 a.m. on Saturday until 9 p.m. on Sunday.
I'm gonna get controversial on him, Sparky.
Is pickleball a sport?
No.
Richard Beam would disagree.
Now, don't get me wrong. It's a great way to stay in shape. It's a
Yes.
fantastic way to stay.
Just
in
getting off the couch
shape. Exactly.
is
And
the
I'm
first step.
I am criminal of this. I am terrible about that. A good portion of what I do outside of being here working is reading and researching and stuff for this show in which I'm sitting down. So I am terrible about that as well. I have to go out of my way to run and do all that type of stuff. But pickleballs, come on, guys.
Well, I
Like-
think I've already been defeated because one of our great listeners texted in a better story.
Oh,
This one says a total of 918 people sat down at 150 tables to play simultaneous games of Monopoly and broke a Guinness World Record in Australia.
okay. Yeah, no, we could compare this since pickleball is not really a sport. And by the way, for those of you who say, who's the fastest growing sport in America? It's easy to grow from zero.
Yeah.
Like, you don't hear us saying we're the fastest growing sport show in America, do you? Like, let's not go
Well,
there.
we are from 7 to 9 here in town.
We are.
We just broke that record.
No, that's true. This is also true. But yeah, no, like that is a wild situation. Did any more information on this? Where did this take place? What's
That-
going on? That's it. That's it.
It was in Australia. That's all I know.
Australia. Look at the Australians. I love the Australians. There's fantastic people down there. But I don't that's debatable. Does anybody else have a better story than that? Can anybody beat simultaneous Monopoly? Because God only knows that had to have gone probably longer than 30 hours. If anybody's played a game of Monopoly, you know how long those things can take.
And we had a text bouncing off the Dodgers. Says, with Dodger concession prices the way they are right now, best believe I'm making about 20 hot dogs and taking them in myself.
I mean, why not? Why not walk up and down the thing and sell them yourself for half the price? You'll probably make your ticket back
That's
at least.
Pretty genius.
But I mean, it kind of just reminds me of the guy who was at the WWE event the other day that lifted up a sign that said, "This financially broke me." I
KG
mean,
sent me that last night. I was cracking up.
well, we've been talking about that on the show a couple times. It's hard to deny that a lot of these sporting events are really pricing out the family and all that type of stuff of America. These things are getting incredibly expensive. But again, this is the trade-off you get when you sign these guys to $700 to $800, $900 million contracts, especially contracts that are deferred for 15, 20 years. Again, these are all gross exaggerations, I realize. But this is what you're leading to if we don't put up borderlines to it.
I was
much
laughing.
like the NCAA.
That sign next to it was what I thought he was sending me, was that I would break up with my husband just to date Roman. And I showed my wife that, and we had a nice conversation because she's got a little crush on CM Punk. And I said, that's fine. But, I would do the same thing for Liv or Alexa Bliss. So,
No, they're wild, man. These people are human. Let them live. Most of them have people of their own.
They put themselves out there.
I mean,
like they don't know.
I do like that.
And
is
that
a
goes back.
crazy
Did you see
thing,
that
though.
video a couple weeks ago with the model lady or whatever, online model that was touching up on Cody and CM Punk?
Mm-mm.
They got to the point where they were doing autographs after the show, and they were walking down the aisle, and this lady, I guess I forget what the online thing is where you can, is it like Only Me or something like that? I guess she's a big star on one of these accounts where you can pay to watch her do videos or whatever.
Oh no.
But she was taking pictures with, at first was CM Punk,
and
she was getting a little touchy grabby with him, to the point where CM's like, get off me.
Of the two people to do that to, I mean, the two that are very, very happily married.
And she did the same thing a couple minutes later with Cody, where it got to the point where he had security remove her.
I'm
like,
sure there was something more to that. I'm sure
these are grown adults.
Yeah. And again, that happens more often than we think, though. I mean, athletes have that happen to them all the time. I think that obviously certain ones are more okay with it than others, but just know who you're going and doing that too. A lot of these people are married. They all have families and stuff like that. It's not like the NFL or NBA or anything like that. Like, I know there's a lot of, rumors that go around with how they like to do their business. Just like, let's leave that in the bedroom. But I don't know. Be mindful is all I got to say. If you were a fan, especially guys, because I've seen a lot of guy fans, especially guy wrestling fans, who for some reason believe that they
have a
pull
chance.
it. Yeah, they have one thing that no one else has. They know them better than anybody else. It's like, dude,
that's a fanatic creep.
Exactly. Put up a wall.
Well, there's also the kids that grew up in the Attitude Era where, Sable and they were putting it all out there.
It's
so
fun
they
to
were
fantasize.
like that.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying have your fantasies, but let's be realistic. Like, let's also remember that these people have lives outside of what you see on television. Okay. Like, you don't need to be doing that. I fear for a lot of these people because I know there's a lot of situations that happen off air that have led to, well, unfortunately, some people unaliving themselves because of fear. And that's not okay. We can't be living in a world like that.
It's for entertainment.
Exactly. So let it be for entertainment. Don't leave the illusion on television. That's always why I tell people. That's what the beauty of wrestling is. You want to understand culture, watch wrestling. But if you want to just connect with people,
go outside.
Go meet someone that looks like her. There are people out there that look like each other. I promise you.
Yes, I promise. And you'll be attracted to them as well. But coming up in the next hour, we'll have my buddy Dan from Harris Barbecue. They've got a new location opening up next week. We've been waiting for months, and we've got the green light. It's opening Tuesday in the Seven Oaks Shopping Center. We'll hear more about this and much, much more. Call or text in anytime, 661-842-2000. The Early Bird Special, live right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 1230 a.m.
101.1 FM. And welcome back to the Early Bird Special Hour 2. I'm Burdick. That's Sparky. And we have a guest in the studio with us today, Dan Kenwood, the manager of Harris Barbecue. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us today. And go ahead, tell everybody where you guys are at and what the big news is.
Yeah, we're opening up Tuesday, the 22nd. It's a brand new spot down on 4625 Buena Vista. And it's a beautiful building. It's a standalone, a little bit different than the one on Coffee and Stockdale. You guys are going to love it. We changed up our menu a little bit, so our sides are a little bit different. Doing a little bit more scratch-based cooking. The 500-gallon smokers out front, 2 of them.
Woo. It's got to smell good all day long then.
Oh, yeah. I get home, my wife's all, please jump in the shower. You smell like smoke.
So the original Harris Barbecue here in town is connected to the Solis over by my other job by MoneyWise. And I've been super pumped. You told us about it a couple months ago. So I've been like, come on, texting him. I'm like, I'm hoping I'm not bugging this guy, because I was like, when's the new one opening? Because this will be the first standalone, right, for Harris Barbecue here in town?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. This is our second unit in Bakersfield. So we're looking to expand.
And I follow you guys on Instagram. Look up Harris Barbecue, and I saw the pictures that were posted, I believe, yesterday of the location and the inside. It looks beautiful.
It is.
I cannot wait. And I met the pitmaster last week.
Yes.
And I know he's a local vet, and he's got years and years doing what he's doing with the pitmaster. But I was going to ask you, you brought up the menu. Yeah. What can we expect differently from what we have here over at Soli's?
Well, the mac and cheese is definitely going to be different. It's made with some different kind of cheeses. It's a Mornay cheese sauce, a homemade cheese sauce, which is amazing. It'll be just our noodles will be cooked basically 10 minutes before. We'll throw it in there and we'll put the cheese sauce on top. We'll do the panko on top of that. And
that's my phone blowing up. That's my wife. She's
I love it.
She's in the Harris Barbecue fan club. I promise. I come home sometimes and there'll be a half of a brisket sandwich. And I'm like, so that's for me, right, babe? She's like, oh yeah, I couldn't finish it all. So she not a week goes by, I don't get a half a brisket sandwich waiting for me. So she's super pumped. Yeah. So Tuesday, what are the hours we're looking at?
On Tuesday, it'll be, well, actually Sunday through Thursdays, it'll be 11 to 8. And then on Friday, Saturdays, we'll stay open until 9 p.m.
Beautiful.
Fantastic. Yeah. Now, I'm a big pork guy. Right. So what can I expect? You guys got good ribs right now, or what's going on?
Yeah, we have the baby back ribs, and then we also have the pulled pork, so a pork cushion. We have both those options for you.
And sausages?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. We have
you
several
can't beat
types
barbecue.
of
I'm telling you, like there are not many food options that can beat barbecue, and I am always down to go to a different barbecue location.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of barbecue here in Bakersfield. Bakersfield loves barbecue, and we want to be part of that, and we hope everybody enjoys it and comes on down and tries us out. Even if you've tried us before, please come try us again. Like I said, some things are changing, and it's going to be exciting, especially for your palate.
Oh yeah, we'll be pumping that up. And they're all over social media. Check them out, Harris Barbecue on Instagram and Facebook. Plus you can learn more at harrisbarbecue.com. And I know you brought up the mac and cheese. Are those, like, what other signature dishes that you guys have that people, our listeners, can look forward to?
Well, we're actually switching our coleslaw also to a Louisiana Bayou slaw.
Ooh, that's where I'm from, actually. So
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. That'll be different. We're switching up our bean recipe a little bit. Our last recipe had rosemary in it. Some people didn't enjoy that too much. A lot of people did, but we're switching that up a little bit.
Now, going back to the coleslaw here, because we kind of just glazed over that. Yeah. What makes it Louisiana?
You're gonna have to. Pat's not here.
Pat's not here. Oh, okay, so he's the one.
I promise it's gonna be that southern.
Dang,
it's gonna be that southern.
That's why I'm curious. Like, there's got to be a location in it, right? There's got to be a little spice in there.
We'll definitely have to bring you back with Pat after the opening. I know how crazy it gets. I'm in the middle of a big move with MoneyWise. We're moving downtown, so I mean that is kind of the same thing I was going to go into. Is running a barbecue place full time and then trying to set up the expansion. I mean, what goes into that? And I know with how the financial situation here in California, and really all over, but I mean, this has been a long-awaited expansion for you, right?
Oh yeah, we originally we were planning to try to get open in November. So, 6 months later, here we are. A lot of hurdles, just different stuff happens. I've been in the business a long time, and you think one thing's going to happen, and No, it never happens then. It's always
There's always hurdles,
Oh my
especially
gosh,
when you're
always.
opening up a new spot.
Right.
Yes.
Well, traditionally, Bakersfield specifically loves to frequent to new places when they
do.
open.
They do.
And if your food's good, we'll stay.
Yes.
So that's what I always tell people is like the ones that don't tend to stay around are usually the ones that don't have a lot of difference to their food. But you guys have always had something different on the palate. So
Right.
I know Pat's got 30, 35 years of experience, so I promise I wouldn't have you guys on if I thought it was going to be bad, because promise, Harris Barbecue, you haven't been down there, man. Wait until Tuesday. I mean, you don't have to wait. If you're hungry, go down to Harris Barbecue now,
right.
over by Sully's, off of Stockdale and
Coffee. Yeah.
So I know I don't get out much. I work a lot. Same with Burdick. I know it's in the Buena Vista, Seven Oaks area. What location? I mean, what businesses are around there? Just to point that picture in my map.
I think it's right next to the Coffee Bean Tea Leaf.
Okay.
Right next to that. It's basically down Buena Vista before you reach the railroad tracks.
Okay.
There's a Sully's across the street also from there.
They're popping up everywhere too. So I'm like, which
absolutely.
Sully you're talking about? So I'm super pumped.
Yeah.
So Tuesday is the ribbon cutting. Are you guys doing anything special on Tuesday that the community come out and help out?
I believe we're gonna have a live remote from a local radio station out
Nice.
there.
Awesome.
Giving away prizes and stuff like that.
Well, we'll definitely see you on Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
My wife's already texting in. So is it going to be a full menu the first day?
Yes, we're gonna have the smoked turkey. We'll have the sausages. We'll have it all.
And just follow the smoke, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It was funny the other day. Someone came in and said he thought we were open because we were smoking a little bit. Yeah, and he saw the smokestacks.
See, they're already drawn to you. I'm telling you.
Yeah, already coming.
Well, looking at Bakersfield's dining scene and the different barbecues. There's a ton of different barbecues, but I know I'm putting you in a corner. But what is the gap between a Harris barbecue to the other barbecue scenes here in town?
Oh wow, there's some great barbecue in Bakersfield, and we do realize that, and we see that. For us, I mean, obviously the Harris meat, we have plenty of that.
Best in town, best ever, really.
Yeah, and for me, I've been in the industry since 1992, and customer service is really, really big to me. We say hi and we say bye to everybody.
As it should be.
Coming and going. If you're coming on my lot, you're my family until you leave that lot.
Beautiful.
That's huge for me. Cleanliness is a huge thing for me also. You won't go into any of my stores that aren't clean. So I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying that's just my thing.
Well, you haven't seen me eat yet.
Well, we'll get the mop out for you.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. We'll keep pumping it up and stay in touch. We'll definitely see you on Tuesday, and then once things kind of slow down, hopefully they don't slow down for a while. But I'd love to get you and Pat back on the show. So we'll be pumping it up. It is Tuesday coming up. It's Harris Barbecue. Check it out, harrisbarbecue.com. We've got Facebook, Instagram, and we really appreciate your time. And we'll talk to you then. Anything else you want to throw out before we go?
No, it's not. Thank you for having me.
You're making me hungry, and it's only 8 o'clock in the morning.
And please, everybody.
I'm already thinking of brisket, and I'm just like, oh god, this is not a good sign.
That's my thing is there is a lot of barbecue places, and I go back 30 years, but I haven't found that perfect brisket. And I will tell you right now, they're not sponsors. They're not paying me to say this, but their brisket is fire. And I'm looking forward to, you said Louisiana twist, so I'm already in.
I know. I really need to try this coleslaw now.
It's really good.
We appreciate your time, Dan. You have a good day, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to get into my Miami Dolphins and what are they doing this offseason right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. That's my favorite Metallica song. Really? Oh, I love Fuel. So good. Uh, when they play it at concerts too, and they speed it up, it's so good. Anyways, I'm sorry. Is it early bird special? I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky.
I should have asked Dan who his team is.
You know what? No, we need to do better about that. I apologize for everybody listening. We are still trying to get into this, and like neither of us have a lot of experience in terms of the hosting part of this. So we're both kind of, working our way towards this. But I think that is something that we need to do with everybody who comes in, no matter what. If it is not sports related, we gotta at least talk sports with them. Yes. We got to figure out if you're not a sports fan, we'll push you in a certain direction because we can't have. This is a sports show. As much as I love food, we cannot have certain situations where we don't talk sports.
Well, speaking of sports, the Miami Dolphins are looking to trade three-time All-Pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey. We broke that story yesterday.
I was gonna say, weren't we talking about this a couple weeks ago? Though this was a possibility.
I didn't think Ramsey. I thought Ramsey was locked in. We extended him,
about that.
But I knew that we were looking for other corners because we let go of Kendall Fuller,
right?
Who we picked up after a few seasons with Washington,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't pan out.
No,
he was injured most of the season, and finally, speaking of GMs that probably should be on the hot seat, Chris Greer went and had a press conference yesterday, and he invited everyone. I'll give him props for that, since other GMs get to select who gets to ask questions. But this is what he had to say about trading Ramsey.
So really, after a couple of weeks of discussions between ourselves internally and Jalen and his representation, we decided that it was probably in the best interest for all parties to move forward. So I will say these decisions aren't done quickly, and they're not taken lightly, because we spent a lot of time this offseason working through this, talking through things. At the end of the day, Jalen did not ask for a trade. So we went through the process, and just felt that after numerous conversations and then talking last week with Jalen and his agent, that it was best to move forward, and it was best interest of the Miami Dolphins and for Jalen Ramsey.
Now, I know you said that you didn't see it come, like you really didn't know if they were going to move Ramsey or if that was even a possibility. But were there any warning signs that you saw from people, like any reporters within the system, saying Ramsey was unhappy or maybe wanted some sort of movement of his contract?
That was the one good thing I liked about Ramsey, because every time I've heard interviews with him or any posts, it's all been positive. He loves it in Miami.
That's what I've always understood too.
And I was under the, but I'm also, I try to stay positive with my Dolphins, even though that's why I have no hair.
That's fair.
But, last week before this news broke, they re-signed Kader Kehu, which has been a solid corner, but we are empty at that cornerback too.
Right.
We definitely need some help at safety. I was unhappy with the play of Javon Holland. He had a great rookie year, but last year he got burnt. And I know swapping defensive coordinators every other year, it will take a toll on players, that excelled in Brian Flores' defense and then might not in the Ravens defensive coordinator that we brought over last year. And I was, after about 10 games last season, I saw the defense starting to find their feel. And we've already lost Calais, whatever how he says it, Campbell.
Yeah,
he's already gone. We lost Wilkins the year before to the Raiders, which also hurt us with his injury. It kind of hurt us with the comp picks that we were expecting. But we also have some guys that have been injured the last two seasons that haven't really had to show their worth yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings up, cornerback that was a second round pick, Cam Smith. And hearing more of the Greer interview or press conference, he was saying that they're going to rely on Cam Smith to step up or shut up. And that's what you want out of a second rounder. This year we didn't swap coaches, so we'll have the same defensive coordinator, same mind feel. I believe, the secondary is I think Miami's going to corner in the draft. Miami has 10 draft picks this year, and probably more here in next week or so. If they end up pulling off a trade for Ramsey, but I was going to bounce these off you like we've done in the past.
Oh,
This time I'm
GM
gonna.
this time?
This time you're gonna play the GM. We've done this with Tyreek, where I played the GM, and I'll get into Tyreek before this segment's over. But this came out yesterday. Per all this talk about Ramsey. So the 5 trades that Bleacher Report brought up is one going back to the Raiders. The Raiders get Ramsey while trading a 2025 4th-round draft pick, which is number 108 overall, and wide receiver Trey Tucker for Jalen Ramsey.
I think we made the same joke the other day, but
yeah, like who?
Okay. So Raiders get send a 4th and Trey Tucker. Is that what you said? I'm sorry, I'm trying to write this down again.
Yes, sir. And then the Chargers, which I think is going to be a team that's going to go heavy for Ramsey because they have that, they need that veteran presence in that defense. So the Chargers getting Ramsey and trading a 2025 3rd-round pick, which is the 86th overall pick, just straight up. The Rams, which is another team we brought up yesterday. I believe it was you that brought that up. Jalen Ramsey and trading a 2025 3rd-round draft pick, which would be the 101 overall. Going into the Vikings, where he would team back up with Brian Flores. Ramsey for a 3rd-round pick, the 97th overall. And then lastly, which I like this one the best if I was the GM, but the Buccaneers getting Ramsey and trading a 4th-round pick, the 121st overall, as well as cornerback Jamal Dean, which I think would be a perfect fit. He plays that aggressive type corner where he's not playing soft like a lot of these corners do.
I see why you like that one because that does interest me as well because from everything that I've read and from what you have told me, obviously you guys need secondary help, and this obviously gives you a man, if anything, maybe even a 2nd or 3rd cornerback on your roster in the depth chart. Like, it really depends if you have anybody in the draft that you like. Because if you do have someone in the draft that you're keeping your eye on, I'd send them to the Chargers because obviously you get the best draft pick out of that. But I also, as I said yesterday, have a strong feeling for some reason that there is a lingering want for Jalen to go back to the Rams. I think that the Rams are an interesting fit for him. They also need secondary help, and he has rapport with Coach McVay already. And I like that fit better than any of these teams, although that's also me being a fan of the Falcons and not want to see the Buccaneers improve at all.
Well, Miami also signed a former 1st-round draft pick this offseason, Artie Burns from Carolina. And as of right now, they've got Ethan Bonner, Storm Duck, and Jason Autry. Storm Duck,
you guys have a name.
Storm Duck was actually the player of the year in the
was he
UFL?
part of the Mighty Ducks?
Yeah, I wish.
He's Darkwing Duck's understudy.
But on top of that, I know the big news. We've talked nothing but bad for Tyreek.
Sorry, that's almost as bad as Ha Clinton Dix. I'm sorry.
I love that name too.
There's some crazy names in the NFL.
But Greer also talked about the trade or the rumors of trading Tyreek this offseason.
That is not anything that we're pursuing. Like I said, who knows if someone wants to come and give me 2 first-round picks, then we consider it. But as of right now, that's not anything we're pursuing.
So we talked about this offseason or off the air. What you think that is that he's throwing BS with that Tyreek?
Again, I have heard it a million times from general managers who don't want to be fired. We're not going to do it. We would never do that. That's crazy. That's so it's asinine. Thanks, Nico Harrison. No, he is absolutely fielding calls. They may not be many calls, but they're definitely fielding calls. If you're fielding calls about Jalen Ramsey, you're fielding calls about Tyreek. There's no way you keep him off the board. He's not that pivotal to you.
Yeah.
This isn't the Chiefs.
Yeah, I could see that.
If he was still with Kansas City and they had won all of these championships, I'd sit there and say, maybe he's telling the truth.
See, I was going to say the same thing as, no one thought Tyreek would ever be traded out of Kansas City.
Right. But
and then we got that breaking news. And Tyreek's been traded.
Guess what? We had the same situation happen over there. We would never trade Tyreek. That's absurd. Are you nuts? Gone. Look,
and they haven't skipped a beat really, besides
exactly. Bowl, just like every other organization, business, whatever, when you become more of a headache than what you are worth to them, you're gone. And at this point right now, what has Tyreek been to you guys for the last year other than a headache?
A headache.
And he hasn't improved. He hasn't helped your team.
I mean,
Jalen Waddle could probably
been,
do the exact same
it's
thing.
It's been 3 years. I've been happy with the first two. Last year was a complete drop off. And you can also put that on the coach and the GM.
And the fact that Tua didn't play most of the games. I get that part too.
But it didn't look like they had a game plan. And when you're a head coach or a general manager of a professional football team, when you're dealing with millions of dollars and actually billions of dollars when you think of the NFL, you have to have a plan B, especially when you have a quarterback like Tua.
Right.
And when you had nobody and you're relying on guys like Skylar Thompson,
That's why I think Dylan Gabriel, I know we
joke.
slightly mentioned it yesterday in the quarterback's best locations. I think Dylan Gabriel from Oregon going to you guys and playing with Storm Duck. I mean, it might as well. It could be his mascot. But I think that could be a really good fit for you guys.
Is that the lefty?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
because
lefty
I heard
from
him,
Oregon.
I heard him on Eisen the other day. And
he honestly, he was a Heisman candidate for a while. Fantastic quarterback. Just Oregon didn't have that season that everybody was expecting him to have. So he wasn't in the long run running. But I think that could be a really good pickup for you. And also, shame on me. I have to type myself up because I completely butchered this guy's name yesterday. I'm sorry, Tyler Shuck.
Who would have known?
Dude, the way it's just like I'm Olivia. It's spelt like Sal.
I'm Olivia.
It's S-O-U-G-H. Shuck. Where do we get Shuck from? What? I don't get it, but it is what it is.
I get Nichols all the time. And
Mayava at least makes sense to me. It's spelt that way and just pronounced differently. But Shuck? Okay.
I've heard Tua's last name 15 different ways, so I don't even try. I try not to even mess with it.
That was a really bad one for a long time. Just call him Tua.
Yeah, exactly. And while we're talking Tua, breaking news this morning, Fox Sports Films announced a culture of winning Polynesian football pride premiering this Sunday on Fox.
Interesting.
So Fox Sports Films will be announcing or releasing a premiere this Sunday, Easter Sunday.
I'm in.
Where they will be talking about these Polynesian players and their culture of winning, with the notable numbers of Polynesian players reaching the NFL. It'll talk about the all pros, all rookies, Super Bowl champions, Pro Bowlers, and to just go down a short list. Besides Tua,
Troy Polamalu, Penei Sewell
from Detroit. And I'm going to screw up a lot of these names, so that's why you're here. The Rams receiver, Puka. I'm not going to say his last name.
Yes.
Former University of Arizona offensive lineman and top 2025 NFL draft pick, Jonah Sevenauer.
I'd have to look at that one.
And nationally recognized football prospect, Chris Henry, which I can actually say. But that will be premiering this Sunday on Fox. So in between, Sunday is going to be my rest day. I don't have my son on Sunday, so we won't be doing anything special for Easter besides church in the morning. But WrestleMania weekend is landing on Easter weekend, landing on Mac and Cheese weekend, and we'll get into what the Condors have planned at the next few days, because the end of their regular season ends on Saturday.
It's another busy weekend of sport,
which we have a home game. They have a home game tonight and Friday, which I believe Friday is Fan Appreciation Night.
It is actually. Yes. You can actually win tickets on that Ralph Bailey show later today on
Big FM 101.5.
Yes.
So
all over the place.
We've got all sorts of Condor tickets, and congratulations to Shelby, who won our Mac and Cheese tickets.
Nobody could beat the Monopoly story, which is fantastic.
Not even me.
I love that. I do love that. I'm a big board game guy, so that is kind of fun.
And we'll keep it in the NFL. We're going to go into the draft talk in the last few days. There's some
It seems like that's every day when we bring up the NFL, we're just talking Shador and Cam. But
this time it's in a different way. So
again,
I know somebody is throwing a hissy fit saying he doesn't want to play if he can't play both positions.
Oh, we're going to talk about Travis. That's a completely different
so
story.
We'll talk more about that. Text in, call in anytime, 661-842-2000, right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 1230 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back.
Our buddy Dan texts in. He's a Chargers fan.
Oh, is he really?
And that
See,
reminds
that's
me.
2 Charger fans
That's
now
what
that
I'm
come
just
on this
saying.
game,
Well,
on this show.
We'll have a comedy or comedian Tyson Hayes coming in tomorrow. He's also a Chargers fan. So now I
Good,
text
we
him
can
back.
talk
Now we
to
have
them.
2.
Yeah, we can talk to them about Trey Lance now being a potential starting quarterback. Justin Herbert, which I don't believe
That ain't
will
gonna
actually
happen.
Justin's a fantastic. Probably going to be a top 10 at some point.
One day.
Throughout his career, he already has been, really, if you look at him statistically, but it has to go, equate in the win column. Let's just say that. But let's stay in the world of football real quick, Sparky, because there's been another development in the NFL draft since Travis Hunter is now saying he'll quit football if whoever drafts him says that he cannot play both ways. Basically, he's trying to strong arm teams into letting him play wide receiver and corner at the same time. He claims that he does it because he loves football and that he's done his entire life and that he just the way he loves to play the game. I get it. I do. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But let's learn from a guy by the name of Tim Tebow. Tim didn't learn that he couldn't throw a football well enough to throw it in the NFL. I love Tim Tebow. You can ask any of my friends. I still give my best friend grief to this day because Tim Tebow beat him in the playoffs. He's a Steelers fan.
Oh.
I will forever hold that over Steelers Nation. I'm sorry. It's Tebow's only shining glory.
But what else did he play? Tight end?
Yeah, he could have played tight end. He could have played fullback. He could have played a lot of different positions. He was built to play football, just not quarterback. I think this, although a different kind of situation, kind of mirrors the same thing. They're trying to help you. They're not telling you this because you can't do it.
Yeah, they want to prolong your career.
Right. It's like Lamar. Like Lamar bet on himself, and obviously it worked out for him. So that's what Travis is trying to do. He's trying to bet on himself and thinks it'll work out for him. I don't think this is going to be the same kind of a thing. I know Dion has come out and said that it's been done before and like there's no reason to believe that he can't do it. I think the NFL is a completely different monster. And to sit there and claim that you could play essentially the entire game. Because if he plays both offense and defense, he's not returning kicks.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What do you think?
I think, depending, it looks like he's going to land in Cleveland. And since Cleveland doesn't really have a roster full of players as well, as good as him, I think NFL teams will line him up at a receiver. I think if he lands in Cleveland, which we're thinking, I think they'll have packages. I think they'll have small packages in the defense where he'll play both.
Right.
But I sure the hell don't think he'll be on the field for the whole game.
It's not feasible in my head, right? Like, am I the only one that thinks that? Granted, yeah, you'll have one down on 4th downs. Because if you're playing offense, you're most likely not going to be on the punt team.
Yeah. I can't run down the depth chart right now for Cleveland, but I know he would immediately be a starting wide receiver for him.
Oh, immediately. And same with the Patriots if he falls to the Patriots.
And I can see the mindset of both those coaches, in New England and Cleveland. I think they'll make packages for him, just like a nickel corner would.
Uh-huh.
But, I think if he really wanted to play both sides, he would play safety.
Yeah, I think safety is a safer bet than corner. It gives you the opportunity to rest for at least a split second. Because you're right. Like, going from running routes every play to having to cover routes for 3 straight plays, it's just going to be it's a liability at one point.
If I was the coach of one of those teams, that's what I would be doing.
And honestly, the only team that I can see allowing him to play both ways would be the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
This is something the Cleveland Browns would be completely on board for. I don't see the Patriots doing that. I think Vrabel is going to be like, no, I prefer you on one side or the other. I don't see the Giants doing that, although they need a lot of help too.
Now, do you think the mindset on NFL teams right now going into the draft next week that they're drafting a wide receiver? Or is it going to be backward? Are we talking backwards where he's going to be a defensive guy that might play a little wide receiver here and there?
I think it'd be more you want him on the defensive side and have him play wide receiver here.
Because that might work better for him.
Right. Like you have packages that you can place him in as the slot receiver, and then he can run some crazy routes and get some.
And we've seen that
for you
with other players more recent
Yeah.
than, the days of Bo Jackson or,
And again,
whatever. But
yeah, and I make this argument too, just because, but I think corner is more important than wide receiver in the league right now.
yes,
I think that is the second most important position in football outside of the quarterback. And that's not shying away from offensive line, but offensive line is more of a unit. In terms of the single position, I can't say there's any other position on the field that is more important to today's NFL than a corner.
So you brought up the Steelers. So I'm going to bring this up because I heard Schefter talking yesterday. Is this Aaron Rodgers signing going to happen before, after the draft? Is there a time table, or is something sensitive where Rodgers needs to sign now?
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, because it seemed like as we go closer or get closer to the start of, training camps and the NFL season starting, that more and more teams are going to be needing a quarterback, whether the injuries go down or, there's been talk, if we talked yesterday about Derek Carr,
Mm-hmm.
If Rodgers a fit for the Saints, or they just, are they looking at a draft thing? I read more yesterday after the show that the Saints weren't surprised, that they've kind of known that Carr might not be able to play this season.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, as a GM, is the Rodgers signing, something that has to happen? So this is what Schefter had to say on a timetable with Aaron Rodgers.
And if Aaron Rodgers decides that he wants to play in Pittsburgh with new teammates, new receivers, new coaches, in a new offense in a new city, I would think that he would want to be there, boots on the ground, from day one of the offseason program, so he could be on the field. Now, he could put this off more and wait longer. Sure, he could do that. It's not like it's a hard deadline. But if you're going to be going into a new situation, don't you want to give yourself the best chance to get acclimated to everybody and everything within your power when the offseason workout program begins?
No, that's a very good point. I mean, this entire Aaron Rodgers situation, I still feel something in my gut tells me that he's kind of learned something from the Jordan Love situation, and now he waits until the draft, or at least around the draft, to get a better feel of what these teams want to do going forward, because he wants to be a starter. He doesn't want to be somebody who's there just to, build up the next generation. He wants to still play football and be a contributing part to winning a championship.
And Schefter had this to say on if he's an option with the Saints.
I don't see it. I mean, I think, this is always about what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. And I haven't heard that all of a sudden New Orleans is a place that desires him or he desires them. I guess it could always creep back up. It's not something I'm counting on. Now, maybe I could be proven wrong there, but I haven't heard anything otherwise to date. Plus, I mean, they've got so many financial commitments. It's hard for me to see them go allocate the money that it would take to go get Aaron Rodgers.
I know that I brought it up when this entire Derek Carr thing happened, but the more I've thought about it and the more I've read into it, I have to agree with Schefter. I think that they're going to draft somebody, and most likely draft Shedeur. Now with all this stuff with Derek, and I know a lot of people are sitting there saying, how could the Saints not know? There's a lot of situations that get left out in talks, especially when a guy is trying to preserve his job. And I don't fault Derek for that. I'm sure he was trying to play on it. Everybody knows Derek in this community. He's a hardworking guy. He's an honest guy, and he wouldn't hold anything away from the front office unless he knew that he could work through it. So there's no reason to believe that he did this to spur a team or anything like that. I just believe that the Saints are now knowing that they are in a rebuilding state, and the best way to turn their team around and get hope around the team is to get a young up-and-coming quarterback that could potentially put you back in the conversation.
Well, to wrap this up in the last Schefter clip, this is what he had to say about, teams like the Steelers or Saints, and if they're going to force a quarterback like Rodgers to, if they're waiting on him.
You may be getting Aaron Rodgers. You may not be getting Aaron Rodgers. And I think that they're prepared to head into the season and have been prepared to head into the season with Mason. They're okay with that right now. Of course, they want Aaron Rodgers. But even if they go draft a guy at 21, I don't know that they're counting on him making a huge mark for a team that can win right now. And so I think New Orleans and Pittsburgh both have gone into this eyeing a quarterback, wanting a quarterback, but neither one in a position where it's going to force a quarterback.
Again, this draft to me, for some reason, is giving me the Kenny Pickett vibe draft. I know they're better than Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder and Malik Willis. That's not what I'm saying. But, I mean, from everything we've seen, yeah. I can at least say Cam Ward is better than anything that's on that draft. So in itself makes
Kenny
it better.
Pickett's college number didn't get retired before he got drafted.
This is also
just
true.
saying.
No, this is also true.
And I heard other shows talking about it, and they kind of agreed with the same thing. They said they at least wait a year.
That's what I said. Like, just wait a little bit of time. Let it sit for a sec. These guys still are taking classes with Travis. Like, it's so odd. Like, again, I don't know. That's just me being me. It's 122 years in their entire history, and they've only retired 4 guys' numbers.
And they said Salam was like they waited 3 or 4 years.
Oh no, it was longer than that. It was 20 plus.
I was like, what?
Salam was 20 plus because he didn't get his until 2017, and he played back in the 90s. So again,
just insane.
I don't necessarily think it's insane, but it's more
about
just
money. It has nothing to do with the player.
I mean, again, until that's proven, I that's true. But we're building a history in Colorado, at least. Like, at least you can now say that you have players that are worthy enough to be retired. But I do agree. You should have waited at least a year. Let him get drafted at the very most before you announce this. Like that. That's kind of wild because now it does kind of seem like Dion had a massive hand in getting that done.
Oh, yeah. And I did. We talked about the draft invites yesterday, and the NFL went and commented on it yesterday. They said they're not trying to push players like we talked about. If it's going to be a Disney type thing where they show, a player that should have been a first rounder. So they expanded the invites and invited people that aren't even supposed to be drafted until day 2 or 3 to cover their butts. They're saying that they want more players that are all around the draft.
Shenanigans.
But I still think it's 2025.
No.
I don't think really, the madhouse that is the draft when they show hundreds of thousands of people for miles, lined up, and I just don't see it.
I've already been controversial all show, so I might as well keep it going. You want to know why I think that we had such a little turnout, especially from first round draft picks this year?
Why is that?
It's in Green Bay.
Yeah.
It's in Green Bay. Let's be honest. If it's in New York, LA, Miami, the entire first round of the draft would probably show up. But it's in Green Bay. Like, Detroit was bad enough. I get that we have to move it around now that the Radio City Music Hall has something scheduled that week. So you had to move, and they didn't want to move the scheduling. That's literally what happened. You can go back to the interview with Pat McAfee that the commissioner did. He said that verbatim, that they just had a scheduling conflict with the hall, so they had to change days. So they ended up saying, we're just going to move it around to every location of our teams, which honestly, on paper, really cool idea. But now you're going to have situations like this, where you go to places like Green Bay or, I don't know, Arizona or Cleveland, where the draft picks are going to be like, nah, I'd rather wait at home. And then you're going to have to extend those invites to guys in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounds who know they have no chance in hell getting picked in the first day. But they'll take the opportunity just because the ESPN people need it, and it's a good exposure for them, which is great for the players that get invited in the later rounds. But if it's really on the ESPN people, they want the first round draft picks. Let's be honest. You want that entire picture of the entire first round right in front of the draft board every single year, just like the NBA gets. But you're not going to get that with your draft in Green Bay.
Yeah, no one wants to go to Wisconsin.
No one wants to go to Wisconsin. What do they have in Green Bay other than the Packers and cheese?
I mean, we've been pumping up cheese all week.
We really have. But that's mac and cheese. That's different. Mac and Cheese Fest is going on Saturday at the Kern County Fairgrounds. Go to Eventbrite to get some tickets.
And we'll have another pair tomorrow. Plus, we'll have our boy Tyson Hayes, local comedian, joining us tomorrow. Plus, much, much more. Plus, hopefully, I'll be coming in all cheerful because my Bulls finally got past the Heat in the playoffs.
I'm praying for you, man. I need to see the Bulls get some success after the last couple years of being knocked out by Miami.
Yes,
It's
and
not fair.
we'll wrap up this show right after this break, after we pay some bills right here. The Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. And welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Wrapping up today's show, Wild Thing Wednesday. Thank you guys for joining us. Join us back here tomorrow, 7 to 9 a.m. As we said, our boy Tyson from the Well will be down here joining us.
And Friday is the show I'm looking forward to, as well as we'll
WrestleMania preview, baby.
WrestleMania Day 2 with KG.
If you're not a wrestling fan, you'll be a wrestling fan by the end of that show, I promise you.
Well, I'll keep it local since Greg Kerr is out today. The Bakersfield Condors head into the final week of the American Hockey League, needing wins and help to make the playoffs. They play tonight at home against Abbotsford. And as of right now, they're sitting at 70 points.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at, so they are 2 points behind.
That would be Tucson, correct?
Final playoff spot, exactly.
Okay.
And they are playing Abbotsford tonight at home, like I said. And then Friday, a back-to-back, but which is weird, is Friday they'll play at home for Fan Appreciation Night against Henderson, and then turn around and drive up to Henderson and wrap up the regular season on Saturday against Henderson. So they're pretty much 2 points behind Tucson. So Tucson, I'm trying to look at who they are playing. They have three games left. So I believe we need Tucson to lose or tie 2 of the last 3 and us win out.
Best case scenario would be the Condors win out and win these last 3 games of the season.
But the Condors have been riddled by injuries the past couple weeks. A couple of their key players have been called up to the Edmonton Oilers, and the Condors are just trying to put something together for those last 3 games. And hopefully, we'll keep you in the loop, and hopefully we can go out and root our Condors on tonight and Friday.
Yeah, get out there, go check out your Condors at Dignity Health Center. I mean, there's no better hockey than playoff hockey, and there's no better playoff hockey than Condors playoff hockey. So we need to be in that playoff situation. Real quick, before we let you guys go, a couple fun stories out of baseball yesterday. Congratulations to the Harper family who had a gender reveal during yesterday's game, actually, which was kind of interesting. Bryce Harper was handed a custom Victus bat that was baby blue that was given to him by Trey Turner in a little fun little reveal thing. So his next child will be a boy. That'll be his 4th. He's had 1 boy, 2 girls. Congratulations once again to the Harper family. And then another quick story before we get out of here that I want to bounce off you, Sparky. Apparently, ESPN is going to broadcast Savannah Banana games.
What?
Yes, the Savannah Bananas. For those of you who don't know who that is, that's essentially the baseball version of the Globetrotters that has been swiftly moving up the ranks and entertaining the world with their style of baseball, making baseball fun.
How does this work?
It's way too much to explain to you in less than a minute. We can get into it more tomorrow, but just know this is a bad look for MLB, because if ESPN is willing to pay for 10 games of essentially your Globetrotters with competition, by the way, these games are not predetermined with the Savannah Bananas. That's what makes it so cool. But if they are willing to pay this kind of a money to show your version of the Globetrotters, what does that show about your product in the MLB? You've got to become more entertaining to the people, become more fun and engaging to your fans. That's how you're going to pull people back into the MLB. But that's all we got for you right now. We'll talk more about this story and more tomorrow. So join us back here 7 to 9 a.m. You've been listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m., ESPN Bakersfield. We got to get out of the way for the great Rich Eisen, who has returned this week from his vacation. Hopefully, you guys join us back here tomorrow.
And a big shout out to Dan and Harris Barbecue.
Yes, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate that, and you will hear more from Dan and his pitmaster hopefully next time as well. But until that happens, thank you guys once again for joining us. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. This is the Early Bird Special. Sparky, let's get out of here, my friend.